that you make an email, people don't want to read it. They're going to skip, they're going to skim, they're going to scroll through and go, oh my gosh, this thing's ridiculous, and just close out of it.
Yeah.
So I want to get to the point. I want to say, this is what we do in one sentence. Do you have a need? And do we have time to talk? Those are the 3 points I want to get through. If I want to put a supporting article, hey, check out what we did with iHeartRadio. Check out what we did with Food Network. And it's going to be a link. I don't need to talk about it. If they're interested, they'll look themselves, and I want them to be interested.
OG, y'all new to the game.
It's Morgan J. Ingram here, host of the SDR Chronicles, bringing you motivational tips, tactics, and advice for your sales development career, your sales career, and also your entrepreneurial career, as I believe that sales development is the mantra and vocal point of your career and also of your life, because we use it every single day. And today, the topic that we're going to be going into, which is very unique, I'm super excited about it, is how to make your cadence engaging. So we're going to go a little bit more what that actually means. And I got Kailynn here, SDR and Event Farm. And she's going to dive a little bit more into why she's excited about this topic today and a little bit more about herself. So take it away.
Awesome. So I believe the first question that you had for me was, what are the first steps that you need to take to make a cadence engaging?
Correct.
Well, just like any comprised writing, you need to start off with organizing the most important aspects of an email. So I'm looking at intro, one sentence about what we do, asking if there's a need, and asking for a time to chat. So I also think it's really important to set out a few minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, nothing really critical, to really research about not only the industry you're looking at, the company you're looking at, but the person you're reaching out to. So 1 to 2 minutes on a LinkedIn, for example, where they're from, or what school they went to. This can be a huge differentiator that I've found that is really successful. As well as industry-specific cadences is a huge win as well. No one wants to read an email that sounds too general or might not even pertain to the vertical or field the person that you're speaking to is in. This can be a really big turnoff and can really result in some bad responses as well as a lot of opt-outs. So that's kind of what I go through as the first steps.
Yeah, and those are great first steps. And I want to talk about a couple of things that you mentioned. So one, you mentioned someone's school. So if you don't go to their school, do you still use the school's information? And if you do, how do you go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a school or, where they're from, I'm going to say, hey, I know that the NCAA not doing too well, but you know what? We're doing well here, and kind of picking a little bit on them, not too much but enough to tease them, to get them to start thinking about, oh, okay, she knows a little bit about me, and she's kind of poking fun, not a big deal, but playful fun, as well as where they're from. So if I get somebody who's from Florida and Miami isn't doing very well, I'll say, no big deal. Let's concentrate on what we can do well together, even though your team might be doing well. So athletics or talking about the weather. Hey, I know it's really nice down there, not too nice up here, but I'd like to get the conversation going. So using those little pieces so that they know that I know who I'm speaking with.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. You want to make sure you add relative context. And now, since March Madness is on the horizon, you can use those different schools to gain leverage. That's what I would be doing. Like if I was someone right now, I'd be like, who's in the Final Four? Who ends up winning the championship? I would just find every single person that goes to that college and say like, congrats, and then actually loop that into a message. So that's a really good point.
You gave away what I'm doing right now. Everyone knows now.
Hey, here's the thing. Most people will know what to do, but they don't do it. So
right, true.
That's facts right there. So you mentioned also something else key is making sure that you're adding relative context on their LinkedIn. So how do you use bios and summaries to get engagement as well?
As far as what they have in their bios?
Yeah, in their bios.
So if I'm looking at, hey, this is someone who's very serious about their industry, and they say, I'm a go-getter, I'm straight to the point, I really want to hear, this is how I summarize things. I want to take that personality trait and I want to address it. And just like we were talking about beforehand, being a chameleon. So if someone is saying, this is the kind of person I am, short and sweet, I'm going to make my emails short and sweet.
Love it. That makes a ton of sense. And so we've talked about a great ways to create engagement. And obviously that's going to have people answer, which you probably get a ton of answers. But how do you make it, you mentioned like serious, but how do you make it like not too engaging, where it's like, this is no one's not going to take you seriously. And then they're not going to take the demo because they're like, this person's playing around. They don't mean business.
Yeah, actually, great question, because and I'm glad this is being addressed, because this is huge. I'm really conscious of the cadences I send out to who, what industry I'm reaching out to. So my my emails should be 99% serious and 1% fun. I want to catch their attention. I want them to read it and respond. Just like any other sales development professional, I love getting responses. Good or bad, I got them to respond and get them to the next step, hopefully a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be, the goal of every sales development outreach. I think sometimes we forget how good it is to get a no email. And the most of the time that doesn't necessarily mean no, but it means just not right now, which I think is really sometimes we forget about. This sets us up for success in the future. And now we have a connection. We know their status of engagement and talking points for the future follow-up. So again, when we're talking about not being taken seriously, I do take my emails very seriously. I take my industry, and I want to put that out there, and I want them to get that message. So the way I develop and the way that I build my cadences should speak that way, that yes, I'm serious. This is what I'm looking at. Do you have this need? And hey, here's a little bit of fun, something to make you smile.
Yeah. And you normally put that at the beginning of the email or towards the end, or it doesn't really matter?
Which part?
Just the engaging part. Like, is it like you have to be engaging in the beginning so that they're attracted to the rest of the message? Or do you put it at like a PS? Like, normally what's your flow, or have you just A/B tested a lot of different things?
I have A/B tested a lot of different things, and I think that what a lot has to do with it. I know that kind of the next question that we have set up, we'll go a deeper dive into this. Right. But really talking about who I'm reaching out to, and that really does pertain to I do a lot of, I'm very careful with gender, which I don't think anyone really realizes. When you're being laid back, using guys can be very offensive to women. So I'm very conscious of that, as well as age. So when I'm looking at younger generations, I'll use a Giffy to be that fun side. If older generation, then instead of using a Giffy, I'll start off with something like, hey, I know the Bulls aren't doing very well right now, but blah, blah, blah. So something that's not a Giffy, that they know that I'm serious, but also a little bit of fun.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a nice ton of sense. So you've already mentioned some tactics you're doing. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So what are the things that you're doing to make your case engaging besides the things that you just mentioned?
So as far as what I'm using, I don't bombard prospects with information, which I think a lot of salespeople do. I really want to say it's a needs analysis, because if there is no need, then not only are you wasting your time, but you're wasting their time, which can be really offensive without people knowing that they're doing it. So I think that what I'm doing for success is keeping it short and sweet. And I think we forget that sometimes, because we want to say, I want to tell you what I do. I want you to know what we do. I think first of all needs to be addressed is there a need? So my first outreach normally is going to be, hey, I saw you're in charge of this. Are you going through these do you have these needs, and are you interested in talking? And I'm going to tell you that email gets so many responses. And like I said, good or bad, a response is a response, and that's our goal. So I think that not only keeping it short and sweet there, if you're going to put information, putting it in the in-between emails. So just a little bit, a link here and there. Hey, this is what your industry is lacking. Are you seeing that as well? Or
right.
This is kind of what we do. 2 sentences, short and sweet, I think really speaks for itself.
Yeah, it does. And that makes a lot of sense, because I think at the end of the day, the worst response you can get in sales development is no response. And especially if you have some type of sales and engagement tool where you can see where they view the emails, like you send a ton of great emails, no one views them, no one responds. Like that's
the worst.
the worst thing of all time. Like, I don't think there's anything worse. Like, I'd rather someone just say like, I hate you, or like, forget like,
I'll take it.
I'll take that, because then I'll just stop reaching out to you, and then like I'll stop wasting my time creating these emails. So I think that's also super important. And the question for you here is, because you sounds like you have a ton of tactics and strategy and mindset around these engaging emails and cadences, but what got you towards that point? Like, when did you decide I want to be more engaging and not stick with the same template of emails that most SDRs do?
I think that has a lot to do with my personality.
Yeah.
I don't like to be that one person in the crowd. I like to stand out. I like to do things differently. And I think in a day and age where everyone's kind of in this stockpile, especially with emails, it's kind of addressed the same way, where I'm getting a bunch of these emails. Are people even reading it? And what I like. So when I get an email that has, and I like it personally, is when I get one with a Giffy and something that's funny, but also has information that I'm going to use. That's huge. And I love it because it's made me smile and I automatically feel a connection with this person. So I want it to be that person as well, where someone opens an email and goes, oh, this is different. Oh, there's a moving image in here, or, oh, she knows something about me. So
Right.
I think setting yourself apart is one of the biggest difficulties for an SDR, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. And it's a multitude of reasons, right? It's because people's inbox are getting flooded by other SDRs. So you're not only competing against that person's time, you're competing against other people. And those other people could dilute the attention of someone you're really trying to get in front of, because you could actually craft something really well, but they may have missed it because they're like, oh, I got 50 other emails that suck, so I don't even want to look at my inbox anymore. So like, you really are competing every single day with other SDRs and their time. So you have to make it engaging. And I kind of goes into the next question is, how do you come up with subject lines? I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people struggle with, is creating those subject lines. My thing is I normally just Google like best subject lines and try to create something out of that. But what do you do to make sure that you're engaging with those subject lines?
And this is something that I've always done that's kind of, again, set me apart.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the title of someone, and if someone's really high up, they're going to get so many emails that they're not going to be able to determine, what's the ones that I want to read. The subject line is the first thing. That's the first thing that's going to bring them in. So a lot of times I'll personalize those quite a bit, actually. So I'll say, I know that you guys just attended this event, and there's a couple tools that I have been using, which Charlie app was a huge one that helped me, and they actually just converted to another company, but that tells you the overall summary, a quick 1-2 of what's going on with that company. So if I know that they just hit this huge benchmark, or this event just happened, I want to put that in the subject line. I want to address their accomplishments so that, again, they know that I know what they're about and what I'm talking about. Also, if it's going to be more of a widespread outreach, I'm going to do things that make sense to the email, but are not too generalized sounding. So
Yes.
I want to say, I have availability today is one of the ones that I use, which I'm saying, I have availability today. What does your day look like? I also use things like attendee tracking. How are you tracking your attendees? For the events people that I'm speaking with, that's a huge thing they want to address is, oh, well, what does she mean by that? So something that gives them a little bit of information that pertains to them, but also gets them to read that email.
Yeah. And there's two things out of that I think we got to dive more deeper into. So number one is, how long do you make your emails?
Okay, so I'm a huge, again, and I'm going to say this again and again, short and sweet. Short and sweet. And I completely agree with this. HubSpot actually conducted a study of over 40 million emails, and the results supported that emails between 50 and 125 words had the best response rate at just above 50%.
Wow. Okay.
So that goes to show you that's a huge difference. The longer that you make an email, people don't want to read it. They're going to skip, they're going to skim, they're going to scroll through and go, oh my gosh, this thing's ridiculous, and just close out of it.
Yeah.
So I want to get to the point. I want to say, this is what we do in one sentence. Do you have a need? And do we have time to talk? Those are the 3 points I want to get through. If I want to put a supporting article, hey, check out what we did with iHeartRadio. Check out what we did with Food Network. And it's going to be a link. I don't need to talk about it. If they're interested, they'll look themselves, and I want them to be interested.
Yeah, and you make a great point. So like, my emails are like 4 or 5 sentences at max. I try not to do too much with them. And a lot of people will maybe message me on LinkedIn, and they're like novels, and they're like super long. And I normally, to be honest, I normally don't read all of them because I skim them and I get too, like, I'm just too ADD. Like, most of my good friends like know that, like, if you send me like a long text, I call you and say, like, what's up? I didn't even read the text, but like, what's going on? Because they know that, like, I can't do that. So that's what normally I do. I normally text people like, hey, here's my email, or like, here's my number. Just text
What do
me.
you need? What is this?
Like, what did you just send me? Like, I can't handle that. And so what I've realized is that the most executives that I've talked to, the people that we're trying to get in front of, don't like long novels because they have 200, 300, 400, 500 emails they're getting a day, and they just don't have time to read a novel. They really don't, unless you're in a sales cycle with them, but that's a different story. So it's important to have that context to create an engaging factor that they can read real quick. And here's another stat that I found out the other day is 79% of emails are read through phone. So if you're seeing an email that isn't able to be read on the phone, then you're automatically putting yourself at a loss.
True. And to that point, I just want to point out, because I know that there are probably some people who are going to ask this question, well, what if they can't see the Giffys on their phone? I actually put in quotes below the Giffy, if you're not enabling this, or if you're looking on if you're looking on your phone, you're missing out on a great Giffy. So they know that that image right there, oh, that's a Giffy, and that it's not just a blank slot. So thanks for bringing that up.
That's actually a good point, because someone might see like a blank thing, or might see like error.
Well, what is this?
Delete, like, that's actually a good point. That's good to do that. Do people normally go back and tell you that they went to go see it?
I have a lot of people, actually there was a few companies that have reached out to me before and said, I love your sales cadences. I love these. Do you mind if I use them with my team? And people actually, the VP of sales organizations will say, I'd love to use this. How do you come up with these? And they'll ask me about it, because I want to make sure that, again, the Giffys have to make sense too. Please don't just be posting like random Giffys in there.
That's what I was gonna ask next. Like, what's the context of sending one? Because someone might be throwing out random Giffys all across the board. So like, provide some more context so people don't go crazy here.
So I like to do things, I'll type in, because I use the Giffy extension, I'll type in things like office or working or computer or thumbs up. Like, those are my most searched ones, because for a lot of them, I know that I say, hey, I know you want to be a superstar in your organization and be fire. And I'll use this with younger generation ones. But I'll say, I know you want to be fire, that executive that's on fire. I can help you get there. And the Giffy is this guy in a suit who's on fire. And he's just like casually shaking people's hands. And it just looks really funny. It's a one sentence that explains the Giffy, so it links together. But that's after I put a serious email in there.
Yeah.
I also like to put things like, a huge thing that I want to say again, actually, is that my last email is a good luck email. And I can tell you that people come back to me and have said, I came back because of your good luck email, which is just all it said was, I want to thank you for taking the time to read my emails. I understand you don't have a need right now, or you're super busy. I'd like to send a friendly follow-up in a few months just to see how everything's doing. But again, thank you for your time. I know time is money. I appreciate it. Good luck. And I put a little Star Wars thumbs up at the end. And people think it's kind of goofy and it's kind of funny. So I use things that make sense.
Yeah, no, I love that. I definitely want to see the good luck email, because that sounds like an awesome email. But yeah, that's really cool. And then also, you talked about you're obviously reaching out to people within the event space, but you obviously probably go to a lot of events. So this is something that a lot of people ask me. A lot of people ask like across the board for sales professionals is, how do you create an engaging message before the event and during the event so people come to your booth or want to talk to you? Because I go to events and I get a message that's like, it was great seeing you at the conference, and I've never talked to or seen that person in my life. I never went to the booth. So how do you create something engaging where I'm not saying like, I've never even had a conversation with you, and that email about this conference that I was at wasn't even relevant?
So this actually happened about a week ago. So I research in every single industry, which I have a specialty in higher education, consumer goods, and entertainment. Okay. So what's huge for this past week in entertainment was South by Southwest. So I want to address that in my email. So I also use timely emails. I say, I know that you're in the entertainment industry. South by Southwest is happening. Are you attending? Because I know some of your competitors are. And I had someone, and I won't say the name, but I had someone in a very big company say, we are attending that actually. And I said, well, just so you know, we have one of our clients that are going to be there with our photo wall would you be interested in stopping by? Because I see, you're in charge of experiential. Would you like to take a look at it, see if it's something you'd like to do? He said, yeah, sounds great. Got in touch with our client and said, would you like to invite them to this? And they said, no problem. If they want to come and see and ask us how we like it, that'd be great. So having that referral and having that client do that was amazing for me. So I actually linked up with our customer service management and our experiential expert to get that going for them. And they were able to go and stop by the wall. Afterwards, I said, how did you like it? How was your experience overall with the event? And, would you like to take next steps? So I think making sure people are attending these, doing research on your industry, like going through, I also have oil and petroleum. So I have to research what events are huge in their space and asking if they're going. Ask if they're going, don't assume that they are. Yeah. And if they say that they are, then you can go ahead and follow up with, how was your experience? I'd love to still chat. If not, don't waste your time, because then you sound like you don't know what you're talking about.
Yep. No, 100%. No, I like that. You have to make sure that you're asking, make sure that you provide relative messaging and context. And also another key factor is try to get someone's cell phone number before you go to an event. So that's what I normally do. Because when you email someone an event, it automatically goes to their automatic reply, and then they have to go through it, and then they got to find it. I'm just like, hey, can I get your number? Can I text you like where you're at? And so that way it's an easier way to connect. And, we talked about being engaging and laughing and all those sorts of things. So how do you make someone laugh, but also respect you while you're selling the solution?
Also have them respect me.
Yeah. Right. So like you have some levity in the situation and you're making them laugh, but also to get to the point, like, let's be serious here. And that's from my email and from a phone call perspective as well, just to be engaging.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to 99% serious, 1% fun.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that in all of my emails, I'm still having the same kind of email build that a lot of people are using. I might be just using it a little bit more for me, for that meets my personality. Because again, I like things, I'm ADHD. I need it short, to the point. So again, I'm going to say, this is who I am. I see you're in charge of this. Do you have a need? And is this, kind of a fun little, if you don't have time for that, or so another one that I use is there's a competitive rowing Giffy that I have, and literally people in chairs, like office chairs, rowing, and it's hilarious. And I say, I know you don't have a lot of time. I know it takes a lot of time to do registration, invites, and check-in. I would love to give more time back to you. I can help you do that so that you have more time for competitive office rowing. And I put that Giffy of them going, and I say, so when you have 10 minutes, I'd love to chat with you. So 99% serious, 1% fun.
Love it. And then as we wrap up this interview, what is the best way to go about the ask for these type of emails?
My ask, I'm never going to assume someone, again, is interested. And when I say, if you are interested in discussing this, I'd love to get maybe 10 minutes of your time. And I'm going to ask for 10 minutes, and I'm going to keep it to 10 minutes because I want to ensure that I'm being respectful of their time. But also, I think that as SDRs, sometimes we forget we need to be respectful of our time, because if they have a need and they're addressing that, then we have a solution. So we're not just salespeople, we're solution managers. I want to make sure that it's a good fit. So I'm going to ask you a few questions to ensure we are a good fit before we go on to the next step. So it's really just honestly if you're interested in discussing this, I'd love to take 10 minutes of your time. Do you have 10 minutes on Tuesday around this time? You need to have that ask. Not enough sales. I've read emails that don't even have an ask, which is, if you don't ask, you don't get it. And also, don't assume they have time. Don't assume they're interested. And put a time out there. Put something that says, this is when I'm available. Because if you just say, when are you available? It's so open. It's such an open-ended question. A lot of people won't respond. If you put a specific time, they're more likely to respond, oh, I can't do that time. How does this time work? Or I can do that time. That sounds good. Call me around that time, which I think is huge.
Awesome. Well, Kailynn, thank you so much for the knowledge and insight that you've given us today. My last question, as every single guest that comes on the Chronicles, is what is the number one piece of advice that you give to other SDRs as they go and enter into their new role?
Oh my gosh. I would say set yourself apart. do what sets you apart from the others, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to get you in front of people, and that's what's going to get people's attention. So put yourself out there.
Awesome. Well, Kailynn, once again, thank you so much for coming on the SDR Chronicles today. As I always say, guys, keep dialing, and I'll see you guys soon.